Hello, hello. I am Dr. Isela DuBose of the Arizona Enlightenment Center. And today, what we're going to talk about is meditation. And even though this is a topic that I think in the spiritual community, it's a topic that we often discuss. It's a topic that I think we sort of take for granted. I think, the conversations are often like, how often do you meditate? Is meditation easy for you? Oh, it's like all of this, can you do it? How often do you do it? And I think that sometimes we just take for granted that the process of learning how to meditate can feel very challenging. It can feel frustrating if you have an intention to learn to calm the mind, right? And we're going to talk about what that looks like. But you have an intention to calm the mind. You have an intention to get quiet. You have an intention to get messages, right, through meditation, because so many people say that in meditation is when the answers come. So I want you to just for a moment, we're going to do a couple things. And this is a little challenging because it's virtual, but I want to kind of take advantage of the time that we have together. So we are going to be doing a little bit of practicing, and I am going to set some time within the video for you to practice. We're going to do some activities, and the activities are kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to give you time or where you can just hit pause, right? You can hit pause and put 5 minutes on the clock. But I think that we need to start to really think about the process and the intent behind meditation. But let's begin with this. When you think of the word meditation, what do you think of? What comes to mind? So think for a moment. And I'm going to say something that I should have said on the front end. If you have a journal or if you have something, a piece of paper, take a moment, hit pause, go get it. Okay, go get that piece of paper, get a notebook, preferably a journal. If you plan on taking these sessions, get a journal, invest in a journal. And for me, I love stationery. That's just who I am, or what I love to do. And so I invest in a new journal because for me, it's a new journey. It's a new opportunity, a new experience where I get to capture um, everything that I'm experiencing, thinking about, feeling. Because what we're trying to do over the series of sessions that I have planned is we're trying to truly and completely get out of our mind space, out of our ego, get out of our thinking process, and connect to the heart space. The heart space is where your intuition is. The heart space is where you can connect to your highest and truest self. It's not in the head space. And see, the headspace is where we tend to rely on. And we're going to talk a lot about this today because this is the barrier of getting us in the space of being able to meditate. So get a journal or get a piece of paper for now. So my question to you was, what do you think of when you think of meditation? So I'm going to take just a moment. And if you have a piece of paper in front of you, write down or draw. If you want to tap into the part of your brain that unleashes creativity, which creativity is also a gateway to your intuition, draw what you think meditation is or what it looks like to you. Take a couple minutes. Okay, so how many of you looked at it as even the image that I put out there when I created these sessions, the image of someone sitting and sort of meditating with their hands up, their hands like this, their hands sitting, very still, even lying down, being quiet and still. We have these images of what meditation looks like. And what happens with these images is we start to believe, and if you are this all or nothing sort of person, so I'm going to give you an example of what an all or nothing sort of person is. It's like I have to be really good at something in order for me to be successful and to continue to want to experience whatever it is I'm experiencing. When I start to struggle or it feels too hard or I'm not good at it, I tend to step back and sort of avoid the situation altogether. It's like what I call the magic diet. We all want the magic diet, don't we? We all want the thing that's going to solve the problem tomorrow, that within a week I'm going to feel or experience XYZ, right? And that's kind of what happens with meditation. We become frustrated, it becomes overwhelming, and then what happens is we start to seek out ways that will help move us in that direction. And so what I mean by that is there are lots of things like guided meditation that totally works. I'm not downing guided meditation. I think that is such an effective strategy, especially if you're doing past life regression, or especially if you're really trying to unlock some triggers and some barriers and some things that happened in your early childhood experiences. I think guided meditation can be a very powerful tool, and it's something that I used early on in my healing process. But what I want to do as we're really looking at meditation, because you wanted to do this session because you probably are struggling with the whole concept of quieting the mind. I don't know how many times I have heard that. I've even said that. I'm going to be honest. I've even said that. Quieting the mind. Our goal is to quiet the mind. When we quiet the mind, we're able to get in the now and connect to our highest and truest selves, right? To connect to spirit, to connect beyond this experience, this physical experience that we are having. That is what happens when we are able to quiet the mind. The problem with this is that we get so wrapped up in trying to quiet the mind. The trying piece becomes the barrier. The trying piece becomes the thing that we are focused on. And so the trying becomes the driver of the car. And you stay stuck in the place of trying. Okay? And this is what I think is really, really important, because for some people, getting into that quiet space in your mind, like that quiet where you can just sort of let go of anything and everything that's going on, for some people that comes much easier than others. There are people that I know who are very analytical in their thinking process, who are what I call the check boxers. They're the box checkers. They're the ones who like, I make a list, I'm gonna do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. They're constantly doing and doing and doing and doing. And I will tell you that when we look at the history of this illusion, right? We look at the history of our physical bodies and the history of how we've evolved as people. We have just in our day-to-day experiences of life. So I'm not even talking about if you're experiencing like significant trauma in your life. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the day-to-day hustle of just being in life. So whatever that means for you, and you could be in the retirement part of your life and still be seeking or searching the same sort of to-do, the same sort of experience of doing that you did many years ago. Why? Because it's habitual. And we have, again, as a society, we went from living, on the land and farming and, taking care of family. And that was the primary motive of doing everything, was taking care of ourselves and our families, right? And so we went from that to creating, buildings and businesses. And now with technology, it's like we've moved into the industrial age where it's like do, produce. We started, farming changed and how we got our food changed. It's like as society evolved and changed, we started to then create a quicker, faster pace of life. And so for many people, even if you're in that retirement sector, if you're in that space, you may still have in your mind the need to chronically do, the need to check those boxes off. For those of us who are not in the retirement part of our lives, oftentimes we are in what I call, boots in the mud. We are still working, trying to make a living, taking care of our families. If you're a mom of children, and mom of children, who else would you be a mom of? I'm not even going to answer that. Because there's an obvious answer there. But if you are a mom and you're working outside the home or in the home now, but working for someone outside of the home, it's rough. And so what happens is we're trying to fill in spaces to accomplish everything. And the problem with how we perceive meditation is that, just like everything else in our life, where we're trying to get everything done and to fit into our lives, we compartmentalize, okay? So we compartmentalize our experience of life. So let me give you a little bit about what I mean for that. So we go to work, and maybe that's a 9 to 5. Not everybody does that, but maybe it's a 9 to 5. Maybe you wake up in the morning and you do a workout. Okay, you get up, you work out, you get dressed, you get the kids off to school, whatever that looks like these days, right? And you go to work, so 9 to 5. And then you come home, and then it's like dinner time, and then it's bath time, and then we compartmentalize our lives, okay? So we're gonna go spend time with family, compartmentalize that time. What happens with exercise is a really good example of this, because I'm guilty of this. I'm getting better, but I'm guilty of this. We compartmentalize exercise time. So going to the gym, I'm gonna do a workout, I'm gonna walk on the treadmill, run on the treadmill, I'm gonna go for a run. It's like we compartmentalize it. So we look at it like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour that I put into my schedule. And that's where I take care of my physical body. When we look at, and I see things as fluid, the older I get, and I guess the more in tuned I get, I see things as much more fluid than that. But in order for us to survive in this postmodern world, right, beyond that, and now in the technology driven experience of life, we have come to the place, especially because we've got our cell phones, we have calendars where how many people have even taught us, right, as how to organize our time, that you put it in a calendar, you chunk out your time. And so we habitually, in order to feel accomplished, successful, survive, we put things into our calendars, right? And so we go, okay, I'm going to work out from 6 to 7. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So I can check the boxes and say that I've completed that. But what we understand in terms of our physical well-being is that it's not just the weight training. It's not just the yoga. It's not just running. It is movement. That movement in general, which is what's happened to a lot of us, we become super stationary, myself included. And so we become super stationary because we're working in front of computers, 90% of our day. Not everybody. There are lots of people who are working with their hands and moving a lot, but as a generalized statement, we have become sedentary. And so we compartmentalize and check the box that we've worked out, but really when we look at physical movement, when we look at our well-being, our hips, our joints, all of those things, it's not just about the workout, it's about moving. It's about going for a walk. It's about taking the stairs as opposed to taking the elevator. It's about going for bike rides for the pleasure of going for a bike ride. Or maybe you have a grocery store. I used to have a grocery store that closed by my house. We used to ride our bikes to the grocery store like every other day and just pick up a few things for dinner. And so that's where it's just fluid. That part of our experience of life is to, in this very fluid experience of life, we are doing and moving, and that kind of adds into that exercise, right? So meditation is the same sort of way. What happened, again, because we compartmentalize, is that we start to go, let's build in a time of day. I have it on my calendar. You'll see it on my calendar. I have a block in the morning and I have a block in the afternoon. The thing about me and calendars, though, is I know that I plugged it in so I can ignore it. So it's not very effective for me For a lot of people it is. So it's like I can't hold myself accountable. But at 7 o'clock, I get that, 15 minutes before, half an hour before, I get a ding that says reminder meditation. Now, I do that again. I don't always meditate at 7 o'clock or in the morning. But my whole point of this is that meditation is not just a segmented time. And this is where we get into, it can be if you want it to be, but this is where we get sort of wrapped up in this I shoulda, I coulda, I wish I can, why can't I, and the trying piece. It's that meditation and that becoming fully present, living in the present moment in what you do all parts of the day is like meditating. It is meditating. That it's not just part of the day that you've defined, but when you're standing in line at the grocery store, when you are, just in between, let's say, phone calls, so you're talking to family, I don't know what you do during the day, but where are the times that you can really practice the experience of being fully present? This, I think, is the key to learning how to quiet the mind. But I'm not going to show you how to do that necessarily first. And let me tell you why. If you were able to do that, if you were able to, boom, just quiet the mind, okay, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be interested in this video. This video is for those of us who have struggled with being able to sit quietly and be able to stop the chatter, the monkey brain, right? That's going on. So I'm going to show you an unconventional way, a couple unconventional ways of really getting into the space of noticing, because noticing is the key. It's like we have to become aware. We have to become aware of our thoughts and our physical experiences. But even more, we have to become engaged with our physical bodies. We have to become in touch with our physical bodies. Many of us who are in self-help, who have done lots of self-help works, lots of reflection, lots of trying to control our anger, maybe control our thoughts, make choices about what we're thinking and feeling, all the way to trying to, again, there's that trying word, trying to connect intuitively, trying to connect with angels, trying to hear messages. What happens is we are stuck in the mind space. We're stuck here in our prefrontal cortex. We're stuck there. And when we're stuck there, we're in what I call this dizzy sort of experience of life. In order for us to fully and completely live in the now, you have to be connected to your physical body. And this is what's really, it's a little confusing, especially if you've studied and you believe that what we are experiencing in this 3D body is an illusion. Then why am I trying to connect with it when I can easily go here into my my chakra up at the very top here to connect, right? Why the hell am I trying to get in my body? I'm trying to like go someplace else, right? So I can live a more peaceful experience of life. Right? Yeah, I know, because a lot of us do the same thing. We stay, and I think, in these upper chakras, and we are disconnected from the lower self, which is our physical body. And so part of this experience is for us to get reconnected or get connected. And I say connected because a lot of us are not connected to our physical body. So I'm going to move into that. Okay. All right. The reason why I keep doing this is because I have a fan blowing over here. I'm functioning in life without an air conditioning unit. Not a unit, it's just broken right now. So I've got a fan that keeps blowing in this direction. So let's talk about this for a moment. When I first started trying to meditate, I knew that it was good for me. I knew that I needed to get out of my own head. I knew that as I worried and was concerned about things that were happening in my world, and at the time when I first started to really kind of play with the idea of meditation, I was running a crisis intervention program. So I specialize in trauma, basically, and work with children and families who've experienced a significant amount of trauma. I mean, like significant, not a little bit, but like the extreme. And I personally have experienced trauma as a child. Okay. This is an important part of my story. So when I started to really kind of get to that space, and I was like a lot of us, we were like, I want to be Om. I want to be like Deepak. I want to sit there and I want to like feel like I am being transcended into a different universe, you know, where I could feel and experience all the things that peace and that love and everything that people tell me I will experience. Well, first off, I was trying too hard. That trying really it becomes your obstacle. But the second thing that happens is that if we have experienced trauma, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in this lifetime, and this is the thing that gets super tricky, because I've met with people when I do readings, and I'm like, boy, you know, I really feel like there's just locked in trauma going on there with you. And they're like, I had a fabulous childhood. Like I had great parents who loved me. I always felt safe. And then I kind of sit there like, well, something happened because I can feel it. And the thing that I'm feeling into is past life trauma. And it does. It unfortunately continues because it's part of the experience of us healing and releasing and forget. It's usually forgiving, oftentimes ourselves and others. But I will tell you, 90% of the time, once we forgive others, it's the hardest part is to forgive ourselves for lots of reasons. Different session, sign up for that session. So what happens when we have this trauma, we have what's called the vagus nerve in our body, which is this, what I call this like super nerve, and can help us calm our central nervous system. And we have a parasympathetic and we have a sympathetic nerves. And what happens with this, the sympathetic is the go, 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 da, 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 and the parasympathetic is the part that calms us. But that actually breaks into two parts, okay? The one part is the part that is relaxing and that you can kind of sit back and just kind of feel like, I feel good, I feel like, right, just very calm. But there's a part of the parasympathetic nerve that what happens there is that it's the fight or flight or the freeze. And see, when I go back to that story I was talking about with our society being fast-paced, having our to-do list, creating all the things that we have to get done in order to, number one, feel successful, number two, feel accomplished, number three, say that we actually finished something. What happens is that many of us aren't just in that where we're just releasing cortisol, where we're adrenaline, where we're like this, but rather we're in the space of freezing, clenching. We're like not in a space of feeling calm. For those of us who've experienced trauma, our bodies sometimes, not always, but sometimes have never had the experience of feeling safe. This is a really big thing. So when I started trying to meditate, I literally started, I would tremble and I would shake. And there were moments sometimes where I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like somebody had their hands around my neck. I mean, it wasn't like I actually felt fingers around my neck, but I felt like my throat was closing in. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't relax. And I'm like, what the hell's happening? Like, this is supposed to be all the things that everyone keeps telling me. You're going to feel loved and peaceful, and all these messages come through, and you just feel so good. Someone even told me it's like having 8 hours of sleep. And I was like, I need that. And I wasn't feeling any of that. I was feeling stressed, overwhelmed, and frightened, to be honest. I was feeling terrified in my own skin. And what I realized after several times, oh crap, that's fear that I had as a child. And so connecting to that part within me right? Getting out of that thing in my head and getting to that space within me put me into a freak out place because my body had never experienced feeling safe. And so sometimes the memory of that, this lifetime or beyond, gets in the way of us being able to get in that quiet meditative state. So, what do you do? What do you do? We're going to do a couple things. We're going to do a couple activities. Okay. The first one is let's really gain some awareness. I'm checking my time here. Let's gain a little bit of awareness, self-awareness. The first thing I want you to do is get your journal out again. Okay, and you're going to need it, but you're not going to need it right away. We're going to spend 5 minutes. Okay, just 5 minutes. That's it. And this is important too, because it's not all or nothing. It's not like I'm going to meditate for 20, 25, 45, an hour, 2 hours, and that means I'm good at meditating. That's let go of that belief system that there's any time set in meditation. Okay. Everyone has their own way. That's not necessarily your way. So what I'm trying to do is simply offer tools, approaches, perspectives, and if it resonates with you, go with it. If it doesn't, that's okay. Find something that will resonate with you. Okay. So we're gonna spend 5 minutes, and I'm gonna play just some music, and I'm doing that just because there isn't dead space. I'm gonna play some music, and what I want you to do is just try. Let me take that out. I want you to just sit and notice. That's it. I want you to notice your breathing and just notice your thoughts and notice what's happening in your body. Okay. Don't judge it. And this is the hard part. Why am I doing this? Why am I worried? Why am I thinking? Or your breathing, the moment you start to notice your breathing, you start to try to regulate or control your breathing. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just notice. That's it. Just notice. Okay. And this is the process. I think I have another session that's called Taking a Seat from the Balcony. This is a really important part of becoming completely and totally in the now, fully present. Okay. So just notice. 5 minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this once we're done. Okay. All right. So I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. Right now it is set for 20. So I need to move it down to 5. And I'm going to play this music, and I just simply want you to sit or lie down, whichever is more comfortable for you. The key is you need to be comfortable, okay? So lie down, sit, and whether you open your eyes or close your eyes, completely up to you. How you hold your hands, completely up to you. I'm not going to say anything about receiving and grounding and all that with our hand. I'm not going to do any of that, because that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about just simply beginning the process of becoming focused. Okay, so just noticing. All right, here we go. Alrighty, that was 5 minutes. What I'd like for you to do now is I'd like for you to write down all the things that happened within those 5 minutes. So whatever went on through your mind, your thoughts, your physiological experiences, write it all down. Okay, so hopefully you got it all down. Okay. And if not, you can pause this and keep writing. So please do that. But here's what I want you to look at in terms of your list. Okay. There's two parts to this. The first part are where your thoughts went. Sometimes what happens is that we, as I mentioned before, habitually go into this to-do list or worrying or thinking about things that we need to do or that need to happen, or we're, what's going to happen tomorrow, or I didn't hit start on the washing machine before I left, or the dishwasher. It's like, what went on in your head? Okay, so I want you to take a look at your list, and I want you to identify the things that, number one, you might have some worry about. So things that worry you. Number two, and I want you to identify these as different. So it might be a highlighter, different colored highlighter. It might be a star. It might be a check for the others. Okay, so the first one are the things that you might be worried or concerned about. The second thing is the things that have already happened and you're feeling some guilt. And it just happened to show up in this moment. The third thing is doubt. Okay, did any of you experience doubt? So what I mean by that is, I can't do this. This isn't working. See, I knew that this. I keep, and so your self-talk is doubt about it not working, or this is really hard, or I'm so frustrated, or I should know how to do this by now. Any of those things. Okay. The fourth thing is old hurt, trauma, pain. Did that show up for you? Sometimes it does. It did for me. So I never want to discount that. I never want, if it showed up for me, it might show up for someone else. And so that's why I share my story. Okay. And then the fifth thing is just idle thoughts that make no sense in the moment. So like idle thoughts. Oh, look at, I really need to repaint this room. Oh, that's dusty. I should probably dust that. Like that kind of stuff, right? Like things that just seem like you're very ADHD. Okay. And you might have ADHD. That might be why you do that. So go through and identify those things, okay? All right. So now what I want you to do is go back to the list, and I want you to take a look at what you actually have control over right now. In this moment, right now, highlight the things that you can control and that you are physically actively doing right now. Usually what happens, and I might be wrong, but usually what happens is we recognize that we are in our headspace, right? Thinking all these thoughts, none of which we are doing right now, okay? Now, there's a lot of that self-judgment that might come into play about why can't I do this? Why is this so hard? That kind of stuff, right? And we're gonna shift that a little bit. So we're gonna just set that part aside, because that we shoulda all over ourselves is your ego on overdrive. That's what it is. And ego is edging God out. Okay, ego, edge God out. Thank you, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, edging God out. Okay, so that's ego on overdrive. Your shouldas, and you could be doing this better, and why is this so hard? That kind of stuff. We're gonna set that one to the side. Of your list, take a look at, again, all the things that you can do in this moment, that you are doing in this moment, that you have control over. Usually what we realize is that the thoughts that are happening are, in essence, robbing us of the experience of living in fully and completely present, and fully and completely in this moment. Our thoughts, our worries, our guilt, our concerns, all of the things that get in the way are literally robbing us of being fully and completely present. Okay? Now let's go into if you felt anything physiologically. So now look at that list, your original list, and identify what you felt physiologically. And so I'll share mine. I felt in my back, I felt a tingling sensation down my spine. And sometimes I get that when I'm just feeling a little discomfort as I'm sitting. One of the things that when we get reconnected to our bodies, we have to form an awareness of what we're experiencing physiologically. So I want you to just for a moment, put your hands here on your face. And I want you to just breathe in and breathe out. And I want you to feel your jaw. Is there any part of your jaw that is clenched, tight, not calm, relaxed, I guess is a better term? Okay. So I just want you to breathe there and release if it is. And if you can, put your fingers right in this little space here, right where your jaw kind of connects, I guess. I don't know what that space is. And just feel it release. And I want you to do the same here in your throat chakra. I will tell you something about this part here. Large percentage of the readings that I do, the very first thing that I pick up on people is right in here. Okay? And what I'm picking up is most often, it's a couple things. For me, when I feel this, it means that I'm not speaking my truth. I have suppressed emotions. I swallow back my truth. And I compromise my belief systems to either please people or appease others. And this space tightens, okay? And I will tell you, I mean, I feel stuff from people, you know, back, shoulders, all that stuff that we typically will talk about when we're talking about relaxation. But this space here is the space that instantly I feel. So I want you again to just hold your hands in this right around your throat, just gently. And I want you to inhale, and then I want you to exhale. But I want you to exhale, imagining that your breath is being released through that throat chakra, through this space. Imagine it, okay? So just imagine that you're feeling the breath on your hands, okay? Because remember, that imagination and creativity are the gateways to your intuition, okay? So let's imagine. On the exhale, I want you to try, there's that word again. Let's ditch that word. So part of our vocabulary, isn't it? I want you to exhale out, and as you are doing so, release tension, release old stories, release. Inhale breath. Imagine breathing that out through your throat chakra and relaxing. Okay. Wherever you felt any physiological response as we were doing that activity, if it was your shoulder, arm, your back, I want you to do that same sort of activity. Inhale and exhale through it. The idea here is for you to notice. It's a practice of noticing. See, a lot of us want to go that all or nothing mentality. I'm going to go from monkey brain to sitting for 20 minutes and trying to meditate. Okay. What again is happening is we have to slowly and intentionally chip away the habits, the experiences that we have created in our lives that get in the way of being in that calm and peaceful state. It doesn't mean that we've done something bad or even that we've experienced trauma. Rather, it's a letting go of the habits that we have created, again, sometimes for survival, and sometimes because that's how we've defined success, okay, by accomplishing things, juggling 25 balls at once, okay? So we're starting to release that, and we begin by getting in touch. I'm going to do another activity with getting in touch with our bodies before I teach you another process for meditation. But before we do that, I want to practice, because if this feels weird to you right now, because sometimes it does, I want to do a mindfulness type of experience, okay? And seriously, I do this kind of stuff, and then I ask people, did you try it? Did you do it? It's like, well, it's so simple, you know, it's like, I get it. The problem with that is that your brain has established neurosynaptic connections that are now patterns of behavior. And in order for you to shift your behavior, you have to relinquish, you have to release those patterns. Well, how do you do that? You create new patterns. You create new approaches. The moment you start to go to an old way of doing things, you've got to click your brain into doing something different, so that eventually, if you don't fire that part of the brain, it will start to just disintegrate, because you haven't. It's like, well, fires together, wires together. So if you no longer fire, then it's not going to wire anymore. But that takes practice and intentional decision for you to engage in the practice. Okay, so I know this sounds goofy and it sounds a little simple, and it is simple, but simple doesn't mean that it isn't difficult, because it can be, right? It can be. All right, so let me show you. I'm going to do a share screen here, and we are going to go to my visualizer. Okay, let me move the cord. I have a couple things on my desk here. I have a couple stones. It's kind of got a lag, which is kind of creepy to me. Okay. Now, I use stones, I use crystals. Some of you who might be watching this may not, but I have a lot of these laying around my house, so I grabbed a couple of them. I grabbed, this is selenite, and if you're familiar at all with selenite, you might know that it's a very soft stone. It's the angel stone. And this is what, for me, this is what helps with communication with the angels. It's a stone. Now, this one is very well polished, but it often comes raw when you buy it. It's not always polished, and it's very, very fragile. So if it gets wet, it breaks very easily. It's a, like I said, a very, very soft, fragile stone. Um, and then, and then I have a lemon. This is a mindfulness experience. And here are a couple other things that you can gather in your home. And I'm going to talk about why I have this stuff in a minute. But you can also use a Hershey's Kiss. You can use a raisin, a grape, anything where there's sort of a sensory type of experience is the best thing to use. An orange. Okay. Now with the lemon, what I do is I scratch the surface. Okay, I begin with that, and then I smell that. This isn't a full lemon. It's one of those cross lemons. I forget what they're called, but it's a cross lemon between an orange and a lemon, and so it's got a sweeter smell to it than a typical lemon. So whatever you choose, and let me talk a little bit about the stones. So I have a couple different stones here, and I intentionally got stones that have different textures. And that, because when we get polished stones, they're all very, and they're still, I'm going to talk about a polished stone in a minute, they're very useful too. But a lot of our more raw stones, stones that have not been polished, have a lot of very cool textures. They have ridges and bumps. So if you have one of these, you can do this activity with that as well. This is a polished stone, but even in the polished stone, you can see there's a ridge there. There's what I call valleys, right? Dips and valleys and hills and valleys. And there's bumps. I don't know if anyone has ever put a stone in their pocket. And then when you are walking and having your hand in your pocket, and you can kind of, what I call, get intimate with the stone, you start to know where the dips are. Okay, so you can use any stone. This is, again, my selenite, which has been polished, so it feels very smooth. The back side of here has a little lump, and then it has the chain that goes with it, which is a whole different sensory experience. The texture is obviously a different experience than holding the stone. Okay? So you can choose, again, anything. What I want you to do, and I'm going to choose the lemon because that one I think has a lot of possibilities in terms of the experience. Some of you might even, as I just show you the lemon here, you might actually have a physiological reaction to seeing the lemon, even though you're not here with me. So again, I always start by scratching, feeling the texture, and you're going to do this with your stone. You're going to do this with your Hershey's Kiss, your raisin, your grape, whatever it is you're using. Okay? And do this activity. So I want you to just feel it. And as you feel it, I want you to experience it. Okay? So let's just take a couple seconds for you to just experience whatever you're holding in your hand. All right, I'm going to stop you there. How many of you, when you are touching, experiencing it, how many of you went right to the place of labeling, identifying, telling a story about it? So if you said, oh, I can feel a bump there. Oh, that's kind of scratchy on this end. I can feel the nub. The nub feels bumpy. Might have been where it was attached to the tree. This also feels a little rough. We start to go right into the place of labeling, describing, right? So let's do this again. And I want you to not do that. So what I want you to do is just feel it without any description any label, any story. Okay, so I'm going to describe something to you. And if you were able to do this, if you're not able to do this, I want you to go back and do it again. Okay. So as that second time, as you were experiencing the lemon, whatever you have in your hand, I want you to have the experience of the lemon in this part of your body, in your heart. I know this sounds goofy. I want you to feel the lemon. I want you to feel your grape. I want you to feel your stone. The first task we did, when you go into that experience and you're thinking about it, right? You're labeling it, you're telling yourself, that's functioning here at the cortex. Okay? The experience that we're seeking right now is moving from this space to this space. And so that is really allowing yourself to simply be with the lemon. I'm going to cut the lemon open. A lemon and an orange are wonderful things to do this with. You bring it up to your nose and smell it. And instead, notice, where are your thoughts going? Are you going here? Are you going into the space of just experiencing it? This practice, I will tell you, and I'm going to give you another practice in just a few moments. This practice really, truly helped my brain, because my brain is the part that is going haywire. Okay, it really helped my brain get fully connected to what's happening in front of me. Okay, not to my body yet. I mean, to some degree, we're going to do that activity, but get connected to what is happening in front of me. Because far too often things are happening in our world and we're completely oblivious to what's happening directly in front of us because we're worried about all the things that are happening. You know, it's like from everything from, you know, environmental stuff to political stuff to things happening in your community, you know, with your grown children, stuff that you don't have any control over in this moment. You don't have any direct control over it. And yet that's where we dedicate our thoughts to. So in these types of activities, so you smell it, taste it. Sorry, I just labeled it. But even in that, experience it without labeling it. Okay, and if you can imagine, the reason why a lemon is so powerful, so is I think a grape can be too, but it's just on the sweet end. Some grapes, it triggers our senses. The more connected to our senses, the more heightened they become. And that really is your intuition. Your senses is helping your connection to your senses is developing your intuition. It's developing It's getting out of your way is what it is, because what's happening is you're becoming fully present in what's happening right now, here and now. And you know, when we look at linear time, the time we live in, that this linear time, right? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, January, February, March, April, May, 1990 this, 92, 2000, that's a linear time. Linear time exists in our three-dimensional bodies, right? Where we get that that's linear time. On the other side, in the spirit realm, linear time does not exist. Time collapses, doesn't exist. Space or time doesn't exist, okay? And when we want to align with that, with the other side, with our highest self, with God, because we are not separated from God, we have to stay in the present space, because that's the only thing that actually exists. That's the only thing that's real. Well, love is real, but that's a whole different story. We'll get there. It's like, we've got to take these baby steps to get there. But that's the only thing that present space is all that there really is. And when we get into past, that is, all of that is ego. And the worry that we have about our future is all ego. So in this present space is where we want to be, is where we want to stay as frequently as we can. I call it the 80-20 rule. So 20% of my day, you know, I need to do the to-do list. And, you know, I got to pay the house bills. I got to pay, you know, things have to happen. I got to go to the dentist to take care of these braces. You know, it's like, these are the things I have to do. But the other 80% of the day is really becoming focused on what's happening in front of me. So do this activity. And I would say do it at least once a week, if not twice a week. And spend a good 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Just spend a good 15 minutes just experiencing something. Same with the stone. You want to just be with the stone. And I want you to feel into all of the crevices, the bumps. But when you're doing so, don't label it as such. I feel into it from your heart space, from your heart chakra. Just experience it, okay? Don't try to paint a picture. Don't try to tell yourself a story. Don't try to connect it to other things. And this is where our habits come into play, because we habitually want to make sense of things. So try to avoid doing that. Okay, so notice it. And what I call that is I just detour, I just make another turn, and then I just kick right back into feeling it. Okay, feeling it without thinking about feeling it. Okay, all right, so I'm going to turn off my visualizer. Okay, hi, there I am again. Okay, so here's the other part of I think an important way, and this is unconventional. This is like the first step to move into truly getting into a meditative state. We have to become in touch with our physical body. So this noticing activity that I just did is our step in that direction. But what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand here, okay? And I'd like for you to breathe. Let's just begin with breath. When I said that, how many of you changed your breathing? I didn't say take a deep breath, although I physically did. That's just what I do to shift. But I didn't tell you to take I didn't tell you to take a deep breath. I didn't tell you to pull in breath. Did any of you slow your breath? Did any of you just become fully aware of your breath? And then all of a sudden it feels like we're constraining, right? We're like, what? That used to happen to me when they're like, okay, pay attention to your breath. I'm like, but now I can't breathe. I don't know if anyone experiences that. I sure did in the beginning. So just place your hand on your breastbone, right in here, okay? And in your imagination, think about what's happening inside of your body. Get connected in your imagination to all the parts of your body. Your skin, the muscles, bones, organs. Imagine how incredibly amazing that all of these parts come together, that make us able to have this physical experience. Feel, imagine, and connect. Visualize your heart pumping. Visualize the blood moving through your veins. Visualize your body successfully functioning to keep you alive in this physical body. Doing this a few minutes a day when you wake up in the morning, the practice helps bring us from here, and for some of us up here, into connecting to our physical selves. Okay? This is actually an important part of meditation, because meditation isn't just a head thing, it's a physical thing. Remember at the very beginning when I had you just get quiet for 5 minutes and to notice what's happening in your head and in your body? They work in unison. Your head and your body and your heart all work in unison. They're not isolated. And what happens is that we approach it like we do other things in our lives that I shared already. We compartmentalize things. And so we separate them out and we try to function at that level of separation. But our head, when we're stressed out from this space, it releases chemicals into our body that heightens them, right? Our sensitivities, our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure goes up. It all works in unison. And so in order for us to successfully move into that space of being able to quiet the mind, right? We need to be grounded in our physical bodies. So I'm going to go back again because I talked about becoming aware, the noticing, right? Which is the activity that I did with the lemon. So the noticing and becoming fully present in the experience, it's kind of a mindfulness activity. And then we're moving now into becoming grounded in our physical bodies. And then here's the next thing. And I will tell you, this was a game changer for me, because I did everything. I did the guided meditations and they were great. What's amazing is like you walk through a forest and you go to your place where you feel very comfortable. What do you see? Like all those things are very wonderful. I'm not trying to like diminish or somehow say that they're not great things. But what I did was I walked through a forest and I made a detour and I stopped at the here because I needed to take care of these things. Like it became my own guided imagery. Had nothing to do with what they were trying to lead me into, right? I just started in my own headspace. In part for me, it was habitual because I absolutely was about boom, 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 getting things done, juggling those balls all in the air. So it was a habit, but also I had trauma. And so for me to get in that space of really getting present, really connecting with my heart space and my physical body that had never felt safe before was like triggering trauma for me. Okay. I'm going to give you a quick activity just about that. And then we're going to get into that meditation piece. Okay. So if you take your right hand and you put it right under your armpit here, and you put your hand right where your shoulder is, and you just simply breathe. Don't try to control your breath. Don't try to change your breath. Just breathe. This is an ancient healing approach. And for those of us who've experienced trauma, this helps us release, but it also helps us feel safe. For those of us who did not come from a background where safety or like if we were hypervigilant, if we felt like we couldn't truly be ourselves, or all levels of this, and it's all going to depend on your DNA. It's going to depend on your temperament, how you received these messages as a child. So if you received a message and what you experienced and what I experienced may not look like trauma to the outside, to the people looking from the outside in, but for us, maybe it was traumatic. Okay, so right hand under arm, left hand over shoulder. And if you can't do this, if you can't reach this, the arm is fine. Okay, and it's what you're doing is you're reconnecting and you're creating a safe container. You're connecting with the container, our bodies, and you're creating that safe haven. Okay, so that's a real quick thing to do. So meditation. Here it is. We're finally to the place of after you do all these things, and you practice this stuff, what I'd like for you to do is now get comfortable again. And this is really common in a lot of places that talk about meditation. This is a very typical approach in the beginning here, is just become fully aware of where your body is. Become aware of the connection your feet have to the floor. Just become aware of that. Become aware of your sit muscles, or if you're laying down, if you're lying down, become aware of the connection between your body and the space below you, holding you. So what we're trying to do here is we're paying attention. Okay? We're paying attention. Pay attention to your jaw. Pay attention to your shoulders. Pay attention to your stomach, that whole gut area. Pay attention to where your legs are sitting or resting. And feel into that. Just feel into it. This, once again, is the experience of grounding our bodies. Noticing. Paying attention. Now what I'd like for you to do is scan your eyes and find something to look at that's right in front of you. I have a closet door in front of me. fan? What's in front of you? And put your attention into the thing that you are looking at. Notice the details without labeling. Listen if there's a sound. Notice your breathing without changing it. Notice the connection that you are making with where you are either sitting or lying down, how your physical body is resting into that space. Notice all of those things happening together. Now shift your eyes and find something else, something that your eyes are drawn to. Breathe into that without changing your breath. Notice it. Without labeling, without attaching a story. Notice it. Are there any sounds? Focus on what you are looking at while paying attention to your breath, while paying attention to your physical body. Now take a breath. Now I'm going to tell you something quick about breath. It's really interesting. We learn stuff. We keep learning stuff. When we inhale, we increase our heart rate. So when we do an activity where we inhale for long periods of time, so we inhale to 7, right? If you want to get grounded, or if you want to increase your energy, you want to inhale for a longer breath. Okay? And then you shorten the breath going exhaling, down on the exhale. If you want to get grounded and feel peaceful and like you just in that fight or flight, or you're starting to feel overwhelmed, or you feel stress coming on, you want to take a shorter inhale breath and you want to release, 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 release. Exhale. The exhale is what helps bring us to that space of calmness. Okay? All righty, so you're going to do this, right? This is, so in that journal, at the very bottom, write down what you intend to do. We talked about a couple things today. We talked a lot about noticing. We talked about becoming connected to our physical bodies, becoming aware, right, without judgment. That's the important piece, without judgment. We talked about doing some mindfulness activities to help us to get into the experience of being, of connecting with our senses. So again, it builds that awareness piece. And then finally, getting into focusing on things, breathing into them. Remember, it's 3 parts to that. You're going to focus on the thing without the story. You're going to notice your body connected to the space that you are sitting in or lying on. And then you are going to pay attention to your breathing. You're just going to notice it. That's it. Pay attention. That's it. Okay? The more you practice this, and please hear me when I say this, the more you practice this, you are creating a new pattern in the brain. This pattern in the brain will help you then when you come to the place of just letting go of all those worries, thoughts, concerns, because you have now practiced enough where now you can be in a state of peace and calm, and you are connecting your heart space and this space from a place of openness, okay? As opposed to fighting against the waves of uncertainty, doubt, and worry, and the things, or even just the mindless chatter. So I hope this was helpful to you. Please send me any questions or feedback or whatever comes to mind. If this was good for you, let me know that too, because I want to know that, you know, this is helpful to people. Sometimes I think, you know, I don't know. Sometimes I think, you know, what do I have to share that's going to be helpful to folks? So if it's helpful to you, let me know that too. Please go to our website at ArizonaEnlightenmentCenter.com to take a look at other sessions. I got lots of other sessions coming up. Also, we have a YouTube channel, and please like us there. We're trying to build our audience, and we also have a Facebook page and a Facebook community where I do live readings. If you are interested in a reading, please check out, again, the website. You'll look under Dr. Isela Dubose, and I am also doing a coaching, a spiritual and intuitive coaching program, one for groups and then one for individuals. So if you are seeking really to take this leap because you are ready to move forward, please reach out to me and let's get you started. So be well, and just always remember that you are loved. So if you lean into that, anything and absolutely anything is possible.